When you hear the words always, never, everyone, they, and nobody, you're dealing with perception, and that's where you want to start asking the tough questions. Is that perception or is that fact? In God we trust, all others bring data. In this monologue, I'm going to again reference my new book, An Insider's Guide to Business, Secrets from an Entrepreneur's Playbook. And in chapter 2, I talk about data, and I titled the chapter, Data Rules All. And the reason why I feel so strongly about this is we make too many decisions in business based on perceptions, based on opinions, based on advice. And YPO, Young Presidents Organization, I'm not a member of that, but I have several colleagues who are in that organization. And one of their mantras is share your experience, not your advice. Because everybody's got opinions, everybody's got advice. But when you share your experience, then a person can pull from that experience and choose to take and apply that how they wish. But experience has actual data in it. Most opinions and advice do not. And so data rules all. This starts with your employees. If your employees know that you are using objective measures to measure their performance, to reward their performance, to promote their performance, they're going to feel much, much more comfortable in your leadership style and also feel that you're treating them fairly because data doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie. I used to play golf. I don't play a lot of golf anymore, but when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I played a ton of golf all the time. And I used to play with these club pros. I was fortunate enough to get out and play with them. I was certainly not a scratch golfer, but I got friendly with these guys, and I would go out and play with them in Florida. And I remember that I would, hit a shot or something, or play a hole, or even tell them about a round, and I'd start to explain the shots that I made and the recovery out of the sand bunker and all this. And the pro just stopped me and he goes, "I asked you what you shot yesterday, and you're starting to tell me all this." He goes, "It's a number, not a story." And I loved that. It stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, he's right. It's a number, not a story. I shot whatever, 83, whatever. Doesn't matter what happened because it's data. It's an outcome. And in business, we're looking for outcomes. We're not looking for stories of why something happened or it didn't. We do when we're looking for root cause analysis, but not when we're managing performance. And so when you measure performance objectively, employees have confidence they are being treated fairly. That's right out of chapter 2 of my book, An Insider's Guide to Business. When you measure performance objectively, employees have confidence they're being treated fairly. When your employees feel they're being treated fairly, you will get discretionary effort. You will get effort that you may not expect from them because they know they're being treated fairly and they know they're being measured objectively. Every position in your company must tie out to a number. Too many positions and too many people go to work every morning. They drive in on their commute, listen to their podcast or listen to this podcast or listen to music, whatever, riding in silence. And they arrive at work and they have no idea how that day's work is going to impact the goals of the company, the revenue of the company, the profitability of the company, and the impact, even the social impact of the company, because their work has not been tied to a specific number or outcome. When we tie their work to a number, and I found in my experience, when I tie someone's actual job performance, their raises, their bonuses, and certainly their upward mobility to objective and only objective measures, the road gets very clear for them. Okay, I need to achieve X, Y, and Z before I can move forward. I need to achieve X, Y, and Z so I earn my full bonus for this quarter. It aligns objectives. And I like to do around profit so that we're all on the same page. If the company doesn't make money, I don't make any money, and you don't make any bonus. So it really gets crystal clear for a lot of people. But it doesn't have to be profit. It can be any objective number, and maybe it shouldn't be profit for some positions. It definitely shouldn't be, but it has to be an objective number that is data driven. And let me go level deeper on this. Too many times in meetings, and you've heard this, people will say, well, everyone or nobody or always or every time or, it's 100% this or 0% that. When you hear that, those are perceptions, not reality. Those are perceptions, because there is nothing that exists that is always this or never that. In business, I'm talking about never this or always that, or them or they, right? Who is they? Like, let's quantify and name they. And when these terms are used, and they're used so much, just listen in your next meeting, how often these terms are used, and you'll actually be quite disappointed in how much of our meeting times and our collaboration in business is around perception, and it's not fact. And I will ask my team, they'll throw things out and they'll make statements, and I'll say, wait a second, you said everybody. Is that fact or is that perception? And now my team knows me, so usually they're saying, that's perception. It's actually these 3 people out of 70. Okay, so we're talking about 3 people. Okay, well, what can we do to help those 3 people? But let's not change everything, because it is not everybody that's involved. It's 3 people. But if you don't challenge that dogmatic thinking, it will get away from you so quickly. I've seen it get away from me so quickly, and I'll make decisions that are suboptimal because I'm using perception versus data. So again, when you hear the words always, never, everyone, they, and nobody, you're dealing with perception. And that's where you want to start asking the tough questions of your team. Is that perception or is that fact? And if it's fact, where's the data? And can you share the data with me? Well, they said that. Who's they? Can you please name them? How many? You'll find that your team, and it's a positive challenge. I'm not saying to be a jerk with your team, but it's a positive challenge because it gets them to think in a more critical manner, in a higher level of thinking around, we need the data. Maybe we need to go test this. Maybe we need to survey our network or our team, because too often we will assume why something went wrong. And I'll tell you, and I write about this in my book, is that the FDA, because I worked in the pharmaceutical business for 25 years, the FDA requires what's called root cause analysis. You can't make a product and it not test an assay the way it should, meaning that the purity and the potency of the finished dose medicine can't be off more than a very, very tight range. And if it is, you can't say, well, we think this happened or we think that happened, but the medicine will be okay. No. You cannot ship that lot of medicine. In fact, most oftentimes you have to destroy that lot of medicine. And then before you can make another lot of the same medicine, you have to go back through all of the quality assurance records and all of the batch records and find out where the process went wrong. You can't hypothesize and say, oh, we're pretty sure it happened because the bulk set at room temperature for too long. You can't say that. You have to go back through every single batch record, every single quality assurance sign off, and find out exactly where the product and process went wrong, that you identify the root cause analysis. And then you have to create an SOP, a standard operating procedure, that will prove to the FDA that won't happen again, that it's the first and last time that particular issue will ever happen. And that's why medicines are held to such a high standard, because, let me rephrase that, most medicines are held to such a high standard when going through FDA approval, because you have to find the root cause analysis whenever there's an issue when you're manufacturing. And root cause analysis is something that we should often practice, if not always practice, in business. It takes longer. It can be frustrating. You may not be able to find it right away. But when you do, and you create an SOP around it, or you change a process, you have forever fixed that problem and it will not haunt you again. So you have to spend a little bit more up front, certainly in time, sometimes in resources, but you save, infinitely on the back end, because you won't repeat that same mistake. But that's because root cause analysis requires data. It requires data, not perception, and data rules all. So never be afraid to challenge your employees, your partners, even your vendors, honestly, even your customers, and ask, is that based on fact or is that a perception? And if you start attacking generalized statements with that question, you will find that it will disarm the situation very, very quickly, and you can get to the root cause analysis and find out what is really going on in the business, fix it, and continue to grow. I hope that helps. Thank you for tuning in to the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any of the resources that we mentioned during the podcast. And if you haven't already, Be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. You can connect with me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. And be sure to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thanks again for tuning in.